Hi everybody, welcome back to Tanner's Favorite Things. I'm Tanner Knight, and today we're going to be talking about this 2014 EVH Wolfgang standard. So those three little letters, EVH, stand for something very important to the rock and roll world, and that's Eddie Van Halen. If you don't know who Eddie Van Halen is, please Google Eddie Van Halen before you watch this video and then come back to this video. Van Halen is considered one of the rock gods of history. He not only invented several different playing techniques and styles, but he's also invented a lot of different products over the years, including amplifiers, pedals, and of course guitars. I don't want to make this video too much about Eddie Van Halen, but I would be remiss if I did not mention his name in the context of an EVH product that I'm reviewing. So you may be familiar with the PV 5150. That's an amplifier that was actually Eddie's first product that he developed, and he developed it in conjunction with PV. And that's one of my favorite amplifiers of all time. He's had several gear relationships over the year, first with Ernie Ball Music Man, then with PV, and then Fender finally gave him the chance to run his own brand, so EVH is actually a Fender brand. And the mantra behind these products is that Eddie wanted to be able to go into any music store in the world, whether he's in London or in China or anywhere in the US, pick up an EVH product or a 5150 product and just be able to gig with it that night. Now, obviously, I don't think Eddie Van Halen would be caught dead playing a $400 guitar, but the builders at EVH have really captured his whole design and provided it in a much more attractive price point to most of the world. I definitely am not going to call this a budget guitar because it does pack in a lot of features and it actually has surprising craftsmanship and workmanship. It manages to hit a low price point while providing you with a rock-solid guitar for gigging, something you won't be as concerned about banging up on the road, but something that's nice enough that you can take out and be proud of. So this particular guitar has some really cool features. The most stunning that I would have to say is probably this quilted maple top here. I think it's a veneer, so it's not like a cap or anything, but there is a quilted maple veneer that is very active and very pretty that once it catches the light. In conjunction with that maple veneer, you can see it looks like there's binding around the entire body of the guitar. That's not true. It's actually the bare wood showing through. So they've taped off or developed some method of masking this area so that the bare wood, and I believe that's the basswood body that's shining through, but in any event, it looks like it's binding, but it's actually just the bare wood shining through. So a nice little feature. It makes this guitar look a lot more high-end than the price might assume. So as I mentioned, maple veneer, basswood body. We also have a one-piece maple neck and 22 jumbo frets. These frets are actually very slippery. There's no grit or texture to them. You can pretty much slide a whole step or even beyond a whole step all the way up and down the neck. We'll have to get the calipers on this neck, but I would wager that it's about 0.85 inches at the nut and stays pretty close to that at the 12th fret. Does not get too much wider from there. I'm not entirely sure what this bone material is. I would imagine it's something synthetic, like Graphtec or something of that like. However, my one complaint about this nut is that it sticks out just a hair on either side. You can feel it just a bit, little tiny edges there. It does not come into play when you are actually playing the guitar. Your thumb does not go beyond that nut in most cases, but I just wanted to point that out. The nut is very functional and looks nice, but pokes out just a hair. Moving on to the headstock, we have this black veneer over the headstock, also similar to how Gibson does their headstocks, but very different shape, obviously. And we have the 3 on the side tuners that are EVH, just the international tuners. EVH is one of the sub-brands of Fender, so these tuners are very similar to the Fender style tuners. As far as electronics go, we've got dual humbuckers. Again, these are the standard international style humbuckers that you find on a lot of overseas guitars, but they're pretty rowdy sounding. They're cranked up pretty high and close to the strings as well, so you get that high gain sound. They are adjustable by screws on either side, so you can raise them and lower them as necessary. But we have a tailpiece that you might not expect to find on an EVH guitar, and this is a stop tailpiece. This is something you might associate more with a Gibson or with a PV or some other brand that is not 100% associated with shredder style playing. This whole bridge and tail piece is very traditional, which to me speaks to the person who's looking for a shredder style guitar but wants some more traditional familiar appointments like this stop tail piece. Maybe you're not into the dive bombs as much, but you do want a shred machine. So this is what that guitar is hitting. Other than that, we have our standard volume and tone pots and a 3-way toggle. I'm really happy that EVH decided to just do a single volume and a single tone pot instead of doing what Gibson does by having volume, volume, tone, tone for each humbucker. It's just extra noise on the guitar, and for something like this, you're just going to play this thing wide open and never touch those. So the simpler, the better, and that's exactly what we have here. Two simple dials that have a very solid feeling. I'm not exactly sure what our pots are inside, but they feel like they're the thicker style that provide a bit more resistance. All right, let's go ahead and hear some tones. So the three-way toggle, I think, is backwards from what you might be used to in a Gibson. In the Gibson, down is usually the bridge and up is usually the neck, with middle obviously being the combination of the two. However, in this case, I'm not 100% sure, but this is based on what it sounds like. I think that down is the neck and up is the bridge. So I'll let you kind of take a listen and decide for yourself, and maybe we can take it apart and see exactly what's going on. But as of right now, I would assume up is the bridge, down is the neck. So let's hear some sounds. So that was just a loop that I put through my Line 6 DL4 delay station. This is a super versatile pedal, and I love this. It's one of my favorite pieces of kit, and it's always a piece of my pedal board. Once I laid down that little bass line track, I kicked it into overdrive with an Ibanez Tube Screamer TS9 pedal. All right, let's hear what that sounds like in the other pickup. My suspicion is the neck pickup. Here we go. Associate this guitar with a clean sound, and you'd be forgiven for that, seeing that it says EVH on the headstock, but it has a surprisingly good clean sound. I think both pickups are perfectly usable, and even that middle setting has its place. Let's get rid of that Tube Screamer. So yeah, very nice clean tones, and I think that they certainly defied my expectation. However, what you probably came here for, let's do some dirty tones. I should probably call out the rig that I'm using now. We're going through an orange Rocker 30 head that is patched into an orange 2x12 oversized cab with Celestian V30s in it. This is quite possibly my favorite rig. It's super versatile, super loud, and boy does it look good. As far as the signal chain goes, I'm running it through an SM57 into my Focusrite 2i2 Gen 3 interface that is plugged directly into my laptop. All right, let's get a little rowdy. Sounds pretty tight. That is through the dirty channel on the Orange Rocker 30. Let's go ahead and hear it through the metal zone. Let's lay down another loop. Not bad. Let's drop the D. I'd just like to say that this guitar is dead quiet when you got your hand on it. Yeah, I do have the background hum of the distortion, but that's going to be there regardless. And then it just screams out of nowhere. Nice. She chugs. Pretty rowdy. Let's go back to the Tube Screamer and just show you what rolling off the tone does. This is wide open. These pots feel very solid. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they're the wide ones. We'll have to take the back plate off and take a look in the second part of the video. But very effective tone control. Like I said, you're probably just going to want to run this full open. But it's nice to know that that option exists in case you need it. All right, let's take a look under the hood of this guitar. All right, so we'll take one quick once over here just to reacquaint you with this guitar. Our quilted maple top with our maple neck jumbo frets, and our black headstock with that black veneer, 3 on a side tuner, and Wolfgang standard EVH is what it says. So let's get a closer look at that quilted maple top. I'm trying my best to photograph this, but hopefully you can see that there's quite a bit of action going on here, quite a bit of depth in this quilt. It's not over the top, sort of in your face, so it's just what I would call a delightful quilt. Okay, here we have both of our tone and volume pots, and we'll move on to the bridge. Now this is that stop tail bridge, like I mentioned, sort of Gibson in style. It has no trem, no dive bomb activity, just a stop tail. Let's get a closer look at these pickups here. You can see the pole pieces and screws on one side. And once we zoom in, you'll see that we have a truss rod that is sleeping right here at the bottom of the neck. It's that wheel style that I actually really like. Very accessible and easy to manipulate. So just a nice looking guitar. Here, let's take a closer look at that binding that I mentioned earlier, or that faux binding, I should say. This is the bare wood shining through, folks, here, not actual plastic binding or whatever the actual material they use. There you can really see that grain come into play. We have a metal jack plate for the input jack, really nice. The back, I would call this a flame rather than a quilt, but it does have some action as well. And even the back of the neck has some nice flame going on here, nice grain patterns. You can see it's a one-piece neck. We even get a little volute there, and you can see those tuners up close and personal, and our Made in Indonesia stamp, as well as the other 2 stickers that you see on international guitars frequently. So our strap buttons are rather large. I had to notch my strap a little bit more to fit in there, but I guess that means extra security. So let's take a look under the back plate. And I don't know if you'll be able to tell, but our volume pot is a 500K and our tone is a 250K pot, and this back plate has shielding on it. But actually very nice hardware, the wide style pots, 500 and 250K. Here we have our switch cavity here, and it's pretty jumbled in there, but looks as it should. Shielding on the back of this as well. Just a nice 3-way toggle with nice thick gauge wiring. So that's pretty much it. This guitar is for sale, so please feel free to find the Reverb link below in the description. If you have any questions, I hope to hear from you. But in the meantime, this has been Tanner Knight, and this has been Tanner's Favorite Things. Hope to see you next time.